Your grandchild asked for watermelon 6 days in a row, the kind that drips down your chin, that you have to lean forward over the kitchen sink to eat. You remember that watermelon, you wanted to give it to her. So you went to the store and you did the tests. The field spot, the thump, the weight. Maybe you had watched a video first, the one with 2 million views, the one with 7 things to check. You followed every step. You stood at the farmer's market and paid $11 because you believed farmer's market meant the man who grew it was the man selling it and it was ready. You carried it home thinking this time would be different. She took one bite and set the slice down without a word. Not a complaint, just silence. She put it down. 3 weeks before that, on the 4th of July, you cut one open in front of your son-in-law's family. The flesh was the wrong color. Your guests were polite about it. You were not. You did nothing wrong in either of those moments. You followed the instructions correctly. The instructions were incomplete. They were written as if the melon in front of you had stayed on the vine until the vine was ready to let it go. Most of what reaches the bin you are standing in front of did not. When that is not true, every sign you checked tells you half a story. Half a story brought you here. I am going to finish it. My name is Elias. I am Amish, and I farm in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, in the farmhouse my grandfather built in 1934. My wife, Esther, grew up on a watermelon farm in Holmes County, Ohio. Her family grew Crimson Sweet and Sugar Baby for 30 years before we married. She learned to read melons from the grower's side, not the buyer's side. That is a different education than any checklist can teach. The grower knows what the melon looked like at every stage of its life. The buyer only sees the end. Esther bridges both, and she has not brought home a bad watermelon in 31 years of marriage. Not once. In this video, I am going to walk you through 7 tests. The first 5 correct what the popular guides are leaving out. The last 2 I have not found in any other video on this subject. The last one, Esther calls her confirmation test. Her father taught it to her on that farm in Ohio when she was a girl. It takes 30 seconds and 2 open hands, and it catches every melon that looked right from the outside and was not. Stay to the end for that one. Subscribe before you go further so you do not lose this video. Quick word before I show you exactly how we put this to work. A lot of the old methods my family uses never fit into a single video. That is what the book is for. A new edition is coming soon, updated and expanded, and it will be available only here on this channel. The old edition was $47. This one will be $39. If you want it, it will be there. The first thing Esther does when she walks up to any pile of melons is not look at them. She picks one up, weighs it in her hands. Then she picks up the one beside it, same size roughly, and holds that one too. She puts one back without having looked at either of them closely yet. A ripe watermelon is 92% water by weight. Every cell in that flesh is packed. Tight with liquid, tight with dissolved sugar. When you lift a ripe melon, it should feel heavier than what you are looking at would suggest. Heavier than you expected. That weight is 60 days of vine work sitting in your hands. A melon that feels light for its size has shed water somewhere. Either it came off the vine before it finished filling, or it has been sitting in the bin past its window and the cells have begun to pull back from the rind. When you cut into a light melon, the flesh has small, hollow gaps in it. The first bite does not give you juice. It gives you something that remembers being juice. Pick up 2, heft both. The heavier one of the 2 is where everything else begins. If neither feels heavy enough, pick up 2 more. A melon that feels easy to carry is not ready to be eaten. After the weight, look at the webbing. More webbing on the rind means more bee contact on the flower during pollination, which means more seeds developing evenly through the flesh, which means sugar distributed evenly through the flesh. That much is known. What is not mentioned as often is the pattern. A melon that was thoroughly and evenly pollinated will have webbing that runs in connected threads from the blossom end toward the field spot, the way a river system branches across flat ground. The lines connect to one another. You can follow them. The sweetness inside follows the same connected distribution. A melon that was pollinated in patches will have webbing that stops and starts, brown marks scattered across the rind that do not connect to anything around them. Not a web, just marks. When the pollination was uneven, the sugar is uneven. One bite is sweet, the next is flat. You put it down wondering what happened. The bees did not finish their work on that flower, and the melon could not finish its work either. Look for lines that connect, not just lines that exist. There is a difference, and once you see it on every melon in the bin. You already know about the field spot. Yellow means the melon rested against the earth and ripened. Pale or white means it was pulled before that. Green means it was pulled well before that. All of that is correct. Go further. Look at the size of the spot. A melon that rested on the earth through a full season will have a large field spot, a broad golden expanse covering a quarter or more of its belly. A small field spot in the right color is better than a small field spot that is white, but it is not the same as a wide field spot in that same color. Small and yellow means the melon was rushed or moved during development. Wide and yellow means it settled in and stayed. Patience looks like that on the underside of a melon. Now look at the edges of the spot, where the yellow ends and the green rind begins. A melon that finished ripening will fade along that border. Yellow easing into cream, cream easing into pale green, over the span of an inch or more. Soft transition. The melon was in the middle of a slow process. A melon that was pulled early will show a hard line at the edge of the field spot. Yellow, then immediately green. No fade between them. No graduation. That is the line of interruption. It marks the exact place where the process stopped. Wide, deeply golden, edges that fade slowly. That is the field spot of a melon the vine was allowed to finish. Shape records two things: pollination and water. Most guides mention one. Both matter. You know the pollination side already. An evenly round or evenly oval melon was worked thoroughly by the bees on many visits. A lopsided or lumpy melon was not, and its sweetness will be as uneven as its shape. That holds. Now look at the blossom end, the end opposite the stem. If it narrows too sharply, if it comes to something pinched rather than broadly and gently rounded, that melon ran short of water somewhere in the middle of its growing season. A dry stretch, a week or two without enough water coming up through the vine. The sugar chains that were forming in that end stopped when the water stopped. That end of the melon is flat and mealy, regardless of what everything else looks like. Set the melon on a flat surface, a melon that balances easily, that sits without leaning toward either end, grew evenly. A melon that wants to tip toward the blossom end grew with stress. You want the one that sits flat and still, the one that grew without interruption. You know the thump. Hollow means ripe. Dull means not ready. That is correct as far as it goes. What most guides do not say is that the thump is a comparison, not a test you pass alone. Thump one melon in isolation, and you are guessing what hollow sounds like in that particular bin on that particular afternoon. Thump 3 in a row, and you are comparing. Comparing is more reliable than guessing. It always has been. Pick up 3 melons that pass the weight test. Set them in front of you. Thump the first, thump the second, thump the third. Do not judge anyone alone. Listen for which of the 3 sounds most different from the others. Deeper, longer in its ring, more like a drum half full of water and less like a block of solid green wood. Ripe melons ring, unripe melons thud. Overripe melons absorb the sound and return something soft, padded, muffled. You are listening for the ring. The one that rings most clearly against the other 2 is the ripest of the 3. 3 comparisons. The deepest drum of the group. That is the melon you carry forward. Esther showed me this after I had been farming for 15 years and thought I already understood the thump. I did not. I had been guessing when I could have been comparing. Before the last 2 tests, one honest word, the bold version of what I have told you, says these 5 tests are enough to find a perfect melon every time. The plain truth is this: they will eliminate most of the failures in any bin, but some melons pass all 5 and still disappoint because they were handled in ways that shifted every external indicator slightly. The last 2 tests work from the inside out. They are the tests for the melons that passed everything and should not have. Hold the melon with the field spot facing you. Place your right palm flat against the field spot side of the melon. Place your left palm flat against the blossom end, the opposite side. Hold both palms steady against the rind. Do not move them. Count 30 seconds. A melon that ripened evenly will feel nearly the same temperature under both hands. The field spot side may carry a trace of warmth, because that side rested against the sun-heated earth and holds a memory of it, but the difference is small. You are holding something balanced. A melon that ripened unevenly will feel noticeably cooler at the blossom end. Not cold, but measurably cooler than the field spot side, clearly enough that you will feel it after 30 seconds of steady contact. What you are reading is uneven dissolved sugar inside the flesh. The blossom end has less sugar concentration, which means less metabolic activity, which means lower surface temperature. You are reading the interior of that melon with nothing but your 2 palms and half a minute of patience. I will be honest with you. The first time you try this test, you may feel nothing distinct. The second or third time, something uncertain. After that, the difference is plain, and you will not stand at a bin without using it again. No tool, no device, no chart. 2 hands and 30 seconds. Nothing in the bin is hidden from you after that. Find the darkest patch of green on the rind, not a pale stripe, not a light section, the deepest, most saturated green on the surface of that melon. Press your thumbnail into it, firm and deliberate, the way you press the neck of a pear to test it. 2 full seconds of pressure, then release. Look at what the rind does. A ripe watermelon resists cleanly. No mark, no impression. You pressed into something that declined to record the pressure. The outer cells of a finished melon are thick and close-packed, and they will not yield to a thumbnail without real effort. That resistance is density. That is a rind that finished forming. An unripe melon will leave a faint impression, a slight whitening where the thumbnail sat, sometimes a thin hairline. The cells have not finished. They accept light pressure the way green wood accepts a nail, softly, without fighting back. An overripe melon gives almost immediately. The rind is beginning to break down from the outside in. That melon may look red inside. It may even release a faint sweetness when you cut it. But the flesh will be grainy and watery on the first bite and dry on the second, because the sugars have already passed their peak. Do not buy an overripe melon any more than you would buy an unripe one. You are looking for a rind that says no. Firm, quiet, complete refusal. That is Esther's final answer. That is the melon you take home. Now let me tell you why the guide you followed did not work, because you deserve to know. Commercial watermelons are harvested 10 to 14 days before the vine is ready to release them. Not because growers are dishonest, because the distribution chain requires that window. A melon pulled 10 days early survives 2 weeks of refrigerated trucking and another week on the shelf. A melon allowed to finish on the vine does not survive that same journey in the same condition. The grower is paid by weight, not by sugar content, not by ripeness, by weight. No one in that chain has a financial reason to wait. A melon pulled 10 days early has a field spot that is slightly too pale, a thump that is almost hollow but not quite, a weight that is close but not as heavy as it would become in another 2 weeks. Every indicator is shifted slightly toward wrong. The tests that circulate were written for a vine-ripened melon. They tell you the truth about that melon. They tell you half the truth about the one most of us are holding. There is no money in teaching a person to read heat distribution with their palms. Nobody sells a product for the thumbnail test, so nobody runs a commercial for the old methods, and a whole country stands at the bin and trusts what looks right from the outside. You do not have to do that anymore. The weight, first. Heft 2 of the same size. The heavier one is where everything else begins. The webbing, read as a pattern. Connected lines running from blossom end to field spot mean thorough, even pollination. Scattered marks that do not connect mean uneven sweetness inside. The field spot, read 3 ways. Color, deeply golden. Size, wide and spreading. Edges, a slow fade into the rind, not a hard line. The shape, looking for the lean. A melon that sits flat and balanced grew evenly. One that tips toward the blossom end ran short of water during its season. The thump, done in 3s. Not a test you pass alone, a comparison across candidates. The one that rings most deeply against the others is the ripest of the group, the heat distribution test. Both palms flat, 30 seconds. Even warmth from field spot to blossom end. A noticeably cooler blossom end means uneven ripening inside. The skin resistance test. Thumbnail into the darkest green stripe. No mark means finished. A mark means not finished. Softness means past finished. 7 tests. Under 2 minutes. Any bin, any farm stand, any market table between now and the end of September. This week, find a farm stand if there is one within 30 miles of your door. The distance from field to table is shorter there. Bring someone with you if you can. Work through the heat test together while you are both holding the same melon. Compare what you feel in 2 pairs of hands. The first time is uncertain. The second is not. Tell me in the comments what state you are in and whether you have a farm stand within easy driving distance. I want to know which parts of this country still have the kind of direct selling where the grower and the buyer are standing at the same table. I read every single one of those comments. And tell me this, of the 7 tests I showed you today, which one are you going to try first? The heat distribution test or the skin resistance test? One of them, I expect, is already on your mind. Tell me. I will be there in the comments. Next time, since we have been talking about Esther's family and that farm in Holmes County, I am going to show you the old way her father stored watermelons after harvest, in the root cellar under this farmhouse, and nothing more than dry straw, keeping them sweet into September when the bins are empty and the season is over everywhere else. No electricity, no refrigeration. Sweet melon in September. Subscribe so you do not miss it. Stay curious. Stay practical. And remember, the people who built this country with their hands knew things we are only just starting to remember.